parents, right? What else are you in a hurry? Because I too was in a hurry. When I was in my college, I was in a hurry. And hurry to be, then I used to say, hurry to be somebody. Somebody in my life. As a particular person said, you become somebody when your signature becomes an autograph. And my signature became an autograph when I was 16 years old. And what made that happen was when I was a national tennis champion at the age of 16. Became a national junior tennis champion at the age of 16. And then when autograph books came, you know what, I used to write a long autograph. I never used to write just my name. I used to write, be somebody in your life. That is how I used to look at myself as a teenager. That I've got to grow up to be somebody in my life. Now, what that somebody would be, I don't know, but I was in a hurry. Hurry in the sense that, it was hurry not to shrink time, to cut corners, but in a hurry not to lose a day, not even to lose a single day. It was like so much of value for time. That when I was growing up, I had so much of value for time that I never let a day go out of my hands. That's the same habit which remains even now. I don't let a day slip out of my hands without being of value. There's not a day wasted in things which can be avoided. But things which have to be done were prioritized. You read Stephen Covey's book? There's something called urgent. There's something called important, not important, or important. Important, urgent, urgent. There's something called urgent and important. Sometimes important becomes urgent when important are not attended to. So urgent and important, you don't need to have a distinction between urgent and important, and the unimportance you can wait. Things which can wait and things which are urgent and important. But urgent have to be attended to, while time has to be found for the important. So as a student, what was urgent for me, what was important for me, and what was not important for me was very, very clear. It was very clear in my mind. If you meet any one of my friends, my school friends, so they would straight away say, oh, we knew what she would be. Because they knew I was always on issues which were urgent for the day and important for the day. And what was not important, waited. Or it could say, it will time when time will come, I'll take it up. And what was not important was gossip. Gossip was never important to me. Just uselessly idling away my time was never an important thing for me. Even though my friends would sit and gossip, saying, चलो बातें करते हैं. आज बातें करते हैं. तो करो बातें आप करते हैं, मैं टेनिस खेलती हूँ. आप बातें करो, मैं खेलती हूँ. So वो बातें करते थे, मैं खेलती थी. तो वो बातें करते करते आप बातें ही करते हैं. और मैं कुछ और करती हूँ. So this is how it is. I think so when I'm asking you, are you in a hurry? That's what I meant. Are you anxious? Are you concerned? Are you are you ambitious? Are you visionaries? That is what I was. I was ambitious that I wanted to be somebody in my life. And my goal wasn't to have money or position or power or fame or name. That was not the goal. The goal was, how do I ensure every day is of value to me? And yesterday becomes value for today, and today becomes value for tomorrow. That was my goal. How do I do the right things today without worrying for tomorrow? Because my today's value is a creation of my yesterday's value. If I do the right way, right eating, right sleeping, right thinking, right eating, right relationships, right mental attitude, right thinking, it will be a better today. Because if I was yesterday depressed, I would have probably been on a sleeping pill. I wouldn't have been here today. If I'd eaten something wrong, or I'd done something wrong, I was reckless in my behavior, I could have had a happy day today. My happy day today is a continuity of my happy day of yesterday. Doing the right, proportionate things of yesterday makes today. And right proportionate things of today leaves a better tomorrow. But it also prepares you for eventualities. Because there's so many things sometimes not in your control. There can be certain things not in your control. Illness in the family is not in your control. An illness in the family is not in your control. An accident on others is not in your control. Death in the family is not in your control. An earthquake, a natural disaster is not in your control, but your response is in your control. How you respond to it is in your control. But a happening which is not in your control is something which has to be encountered. But what can be, but that habit of my response to be right, which is in control, is a habit of yesterday. Right reading. Now you're all emerging as engineers. I was a liberal arts student. I'm an IITian because I did my PhD from IIT Delhi. I was a liberal arts student and I combined liberal arts with sports, with tennis. Tennis was my family game. My father was a great tennis player. So tennis became a part of daily breakfast, lunch and dinner. So from school I used to go for tennis straight away from school to the tennis court, from tennis court to home. And then home meant finish your homework, do your reading and go to sleep early. And then get up again at 5 in the morning, go for a jog for about 3 to 4 kilometers, prepare for tennis tournaments, go to school again, and then attend school and then go back to tennis court because tennis was a competitive sport which is a part of the family. So I had to proportion my time in such a way that I had to do both. So I became one of the rare students in my university who attained 2 scholarships. Academic scholarship and a sports scholarship. And there was no rule for 2 scholarships. And the vice chancellor at that time said, no, there's no rule for 2 scholarships. And I was, as a young girl, because I had achieved both, I'd achieved my top in the political science subjects and I'd achieved top in my sports. I said, well then, you have to create a rule then. Why should you deny me 2 scholarships when you never had a student? Today you have a student, you've got to create a rule. They created a rule. But why did I do 2? You might just say, but weren't you playing all the time? How could you study? Because I did nothing else but then got back to studies. Even when I was traveling on long distances to play tennis tournaments, traveling around the country, I used to travel with books. So whenever I was fresh in my mind, I would go to study and play. Because why? You might just say, why was tennis studying so essential for you? You were a young girl, you could have been married off in those days. Because that's not what I wanted to be. I didn't want to be leading a traditional woman's life. I wanted to lead a career woman's life, a life which supports others too. Played a supportive role in more than one way. A woman's life, even at home, is very supportive. Because without her, the home is no more a home, it's a house. But I wanted to have a home and yet be like any other person, also be economically supportive and mentally stimulating. So I wanted to have mental stimulation and a career as a woman. So I decided that I'm not going to get married without being totally independent financially and all otherwise. I will choose a life partner, but I will choose a life partner on my terms. Somebody who is a life partner and not a mutually dependent relationship. That's what I wanted to be. And therefore, and being liberal arts, I knew civil services was my goal. So I was into studies, and then I decided I'll take the civil services examination. Because I was also a sensitive human being. When I was growing up, while I wanted to be a career woman, I was also growing up as somebody who wanted to work for the country, who wanted to work for the poor, who wanted to work for the people. This was my goal. When this became the goal, naturally ensuring that I don't lose a minute, I don't lose a single day, naturally was urgent. Why I'm telling you this story is that this is exactly the clarity if you have at this stage. What do you want to be? What is that somebody you want to be? How will you be that? Every day matters. And your 4 years, 3 years in college, what you do, every day matters. You cannot have a holiday in this. You can rest, you can relax, you can have fun, but that's also for a goal is to refresh yourself, to go back to work, to go back to studies. There are 3 M's for success. The secret of success is these 3 M's which I'm going to share with you. The first M is mastery in all that you do. Mastery. If you're becoming an engineer, if you're a student, it's a mastery of your academics, which means that you leave nothing undone, nothing untouched in your subject. You become a thorough in your subject, which means no book unread, no research unread. You are doing everything with your heart and soul. You are becoming a master. You are a teacher for yourself. The teacher only adds to your knowledge and not begins the knowledge. Teacher is like the icing on the cake and not the cake itself. That's the way you do it. He's the icing. When I was doing my master's in political science, I was doing it from Chandigarh, Punjab University, and I was traveling 6 months in a year. Now I was India's #1, and then I was traveling. To retain your rank, you have to win certain tournaments. And Punjab University was also very happy that I was winning Punjab University tennis titles for them, and they were giving me the attendance. But classes were important too. So what the teacher would used to tell me is that, Kiran, for these next 1 month or 6 weeks, we will be covering the following subjects. And once they would tell me, I would get books issued of those 6 subjects. I would travel with those books. I became my own teacher. I taught myself by reading and understanding more than one book of a subject. So if I would read a chapter, I would look at 3 different books of that chapter and understand and make my own notes. And when I would go back to the class and go back to the same teachers, they were like an icing on the cake. They were not the cake. They were the icing on the cake, because they would only tell me that much extra which I needed to do. Or they said, you're fine, you're happy, they'll be happy, you go ahead. So when I topped the university in my masters, despite playing so much of competitive tennis, and I went back to say, thank you, sir, for helping me get this top position, they said, no, this is all yours, because this is all your own creation, this is all your own hard work. Despite not attending classes all the time, yet you're topping, it's because of your own hard work. But I said, no, sir, you kept guiding me rightly, I kept listening to you rightly, and I kept doing my duty as a student at the time I needed to do. And then as a tennis player, when we were having, every time the tennis match would be over, evening would be a lot of fun, because girls and boys, we would all be together. And we would have dance parties every evening. And there would be late evening parties. I was never there. I could not be there. I had a match in the morning, I had to practice in the morning, and I wanted to study in the evening. But it did not mean that I didn't make friends. I had lots of friends. But then I chose my timing. Those same friends who were with me on tennis, who were then into dance parties, are employed by my own NGO today. They're working for my NGO. I employed them. And they tell others when they visit my office, my NGO, why I work in honorary capacity. My NGO pays them for work. They work for me. So they don't work for me in the sense, they work for a cause. But the point is they are employed. And when they tell other visitors, they say, तब ये पढ़ती थी, हम डांस करते थे. अब ये डांस करती है और हम पढ़ते हैं. Dance का मतलब, I do things what I want to do. And they are stuck and they're running my office. They're running the NGO office. The basic thing in life, the first M is mastery of your own time. And mastery is very correct timing. In the mastery is very important that you master over the time sequence you have. At the moment, you can't become a parent. You can't become an employer. You can't become a professor. You're a student. Understand what is student about. Mastery over student life. And in the student, remember, it's not just your subject. It's now the second M. Mastery over your relationships. It's a member of the community. Second thing is you have a master over your own occupation or your studies, but then you're also a very important member of the community. In that member of the community, it's all about relationships. And in that relationships, it's character. It's your attitudes. It's your habit.
How many of you ever volunteered any time in any project while in school? How many of you? Did you serve any community while in school as a 12th standard student? Did your school send out you to do projects in the community? Have you gone to community projects then as a graduate? Have you done any community project as a master or as a PhD? Any one of you? No. This is something totally missing in our education system. Today, you go and take admission overseas, go in for MITs and Harvards and Yales. Do you know the question they ask you? What have you done for others while being a student? You are not going to get admission without it. This is unfortunately our education system, which is a question mark. I was as a student volunteering to serve others on my own because I was sensitive to people, and every time there was a need, I had to pick up my bike and go and serve in a hospital or a Red Cross or something like that, to serve in a community. Other educational institutions overseas have made community service mandatory to serve the people. And do you know why? Why we are not patriotic? It's why we are not as members of the community saying, why should we serve others? Because you never learned to serve as a student. You're all learning to be selfish. You're all learning to be somebody for yourself. And that takes me to the third M. The third M is higher purpose, meaning in life. First M is mastery over your hands, skills. Mastery over your time, how you manage your time. Second M is what kind of member of the community you become. And third is meaning in life. How can meaning in life come without the second, which is being a good member of the community, being a member of this nation, member of this country, member of your society, member of your village, member of your neighborhood, member of your family, where you learn to give. How many of you, unless you go out and do something out of the way, which takes you out of the comfort zone, you never learn to give? That is why in India, philanthropy, when it comes to giving, is the lowest. You may give it to the mandir, you may give it to a dharmsala, you may give it to Tirupati, thinking it will reach God, but you will not give it to a student or a garib child for the education. You'll give it to Bhagwan Tirupati, but where Tirupati Lord is already so rich, but you will never give it to a poor school, that iski library bana lena, iski diwar ko kali kara lena, iske computer ek khareed lena. We don't do it because we've not learned to give. These three M's are very vital for the success of as youth, if you wish to develop. Three M's which I practiced in my life, continue to practice in my life. First M is your professional M and your time value. Second M is your community building. Unless you serve community, unless you stretch out, now unless you do internships, community projects, you might just say, well, that has nothing to do with engineering. That's exactly the point. You're not here to become machines. You are here as, first of all, human engineers. Before you become mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, computer engineer, whatever engineer you want to be, you are first a human engineer. You're first a good human being. And that is leadership all about. So we learn leadership, corporate leadership later on. But do you know what? You're already leaders. Character is already made. Rest is only going to be learning this, called the synonyms and called the language of leadership. Your soft skills are already made because that's your character. And if in your character you don't have giving, you will have to be compelled to learn as a leader, but it will not be your attitude, it will not be in your genes. It will be imposed. You will learn it by making mistakes. Because you want a promotion, now you want a new face, you want to be known, that's why. Or you want to be liked, you want to be loved, you want somebody to appreciate you, and you start bringing in those qualities as polish, but they will not be part of your genes. why this country is so corrupt today? Why? You're all under so much of a debt today. Do you know all of us are under a huge debt? When nation is under a debt, who pays the debt? We all pay the debt. Indirectly, from all the income we generate, part of that income which goes into a national bank goes back to be paid. It's we earn, we bank, and that bank pays the debt. So instead of that money being going as debt, had we not been under a debt, that money would have remained to open more IITs, more IIMs, more colleges, more universities, more roads, more airports, more railway stations, more hospitals, more dispensaries. You would have had it. But that money is going to pay a debt. And it's corrupt. We borrow more money and don't put it in the bank. We pocket it ourselves. We steal the money. And yet we are under a debt. And yet nobody raises a voice. Nobody raises a voice. Why? Because we've learned to be busy in our own self-developed, self-occupation. But that skill of community membership is very low. Very low. And that is the benefit many of these politicians and bureaucrats, because after all, they are the ones who can be corrupt. Or the big corporates. Where does corruption come from? Where there's money, where there's power, where there's position. After all, if I'm not in a position, I'm not a police commissioner or a chief secretary or a politician, I have nothing to give. But if I'm a politician, I have a cabinet berth, I have something to give. I give licenses to give. I have permissions to give. I have notifications to make. I will give you the land to give. I'll have land. And the bureaucrat will clear the file. The bureaucrat, and then they make a nexus. And the rich corporate has the money to buy. So he buys and I give. So these three things need position. That is why there's a lot of Ram Salam to anybody in power and position. And there's no Ram Salam to somebody who's not in position, because he has nothing to give. It's a selfish relationship. And we develop this habit now. Because we never learn to serve in the community. We don't value India. India, I'm an Indian, very good. But I'll never do anything for India. I will be a good Indian. I love India. I sing very good national anthem. But when it comes to a movement, I'll not join. Because that's not my problem. It is Anna Hazare's problem, not mine. Anna Hazare should fast for 12 days. While when he sits there, I need not come. Somebody else will come. I have to do. You will not join. You will not raise your voice because you're afraid also. That, oh, my face may be seen by my principal and he'll deduct the marks. Yes? 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 Of course, yes. Of course, yes. Yes. Of course, yes. Did you have a debate on Lokpal bill in the college?
Yes.
Good. Thank you. Did you understand the pros and cons of the bills? What the government bill was and what the civil society wanted? Give me one difference. Tell me one difference, major difference between the government bill and the civil society bill. Raise your hand and tell me. Whoever wishes to tell me. Yeah, stand up and speak. What is the one crucial difference between the Sarkari bill and the people's bill?
Civil society wanted the CBI to be an independent body to investigate whatever accusations anybody has put against somebody. So the civil society wanted a CBI to be an independent body investigating into such cases, whereas the government said that no, it has to be under the government control, and they even thought it was the investigating wing was divided to investigate, and the other part of the CBI was kept under the government, and only the investigating wing was released.
What he says, you all know?
Yes.
Full marks to you. Thank you very much. Very, very happy with you. Full marks to you. You are the first such IIT which I have detected who knows it. I've been to some other institutions. They did not know it. They did not know it. Full credit to your leadership there. Full credit to your faculty that they allowed it to happen. Full credit. At some places, they did not even allow this discussion. Do you know this? I saw it. They didn't even allow. They thought it will annoy the government. I'm so happy that you know it. It was very important and you know the right thing. That's correct. And why CBI's autonomy is important? Did you discuss that? Why is civil society suggesting that CBI should administratively get out of government control and become independent? Why? Can somebody else tell me? I know you know the answer. Somebody else can tell me? Any girl can tell me? Any girl? I want a girl to tell me now. Yes. Thank you. Yes.
What we exactly want is a corruption-led system. But if it again is under the government, it will under the pressure of the government.
Yes.
And maybe there is something which they won't be able to showcase to the general public because of the pressure of it. So eventually we'll end up with a system which is actually right now. I mean, it won't make such a difference what we actually wanted. So
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm proud of you. I'm very happy to hear from you. You also know the reason. Now I want one more answer. What has been happening so far? Why this change was necessary? What you said CBI needs to be administratively autonomous, and she very rightly said that because otherwise it would have made no difference. You would have continued to interfere. So what was this agitation for then? Why do we need lokpal if this is it? So what had been happening? Can anybody tell me now? Anybody tell me what had been happening that we wanted to change? What was the real cause? Anybody? Anybody raising your hand? Come on, you know it. Don't have to worry. You know the answer. You just have to think logically because the answer is inbuilt in whatever you have said so far. What was happening so far? Yes.
Although the country is said to be democratic, but still I think it's ruled, it's a monopoly by the Congress. Many.
Doesn't matter, don't worry, relax. He has a right to say what at least he's had the courage to say. Yes.
I mean that there's, we don't have total freedom over every issue. Probably that's why.
Okay, now let me tell you, sit down. Thank you, son. All the same. I must tell you something very important. This why is very important to know. Please always raise the question why. Curiosity as a student is so critical. When you do these kinds of debates, you must know why. Don't take it as it is. I'm asking why. You could have asked me why. And you must ask why when you have these debates. Ask your teachers why. Ask the speaker why. And the why is not because of a particular monopoly he's not off the mark. The point, what has happened is, over the years, Central Bureau of Investigation is like the FBI of India. It's like the Federal Bureau of Investigation for India. India has one central major agency for investigation, which is the CBI. And in the CBI, there is a federal crime which it investigates, particularly corruption cases, particularly against the union ministers or the class 1 or B officers. In fact, it has the power to investigate all officers. That's why sometimes they catch even a peon and a postman. So they can catch anybody up to any service, A, B, C, D. But CBI catches the big fish. And the big fish are those who are at the helm, whether they are in the IAS, the IPS, the IRS, the customs, the All India Civil Services, and the ministers. And what has been happening is that since they focus on the big fish, that big fish is always working, if it is a bureaucracy, it is working under the government in power. And what is the government in power? Is the party in power. And party in power have been all parties, but majority has been, unfortunately, if out of 64 years, Congress has dominated almost 2/3 of the time. And you had BJP and other parties also having their share. You had the UPA and you have the NDA. You had these regimes. But the fact is, many earlier years, Congress was totally the single largest party in India, spread all over the country. Gradually, from a national party, regional parties came up. BJDs, etc. came in much later. Earlier, you had almost a Congress all over the country. During the time I was growing up, when Indira Gandhi was president or Rajiv Gandhi, you almost had this party in almost all the states. And that's why the clashes were minimal. But gradually you found regional parties coming up. Like you found the Trinamool coming up now, you have the Samajwadi party coming up in UPA, you got the Mayawati's party coming up, you have the Akali Dal coming up, you have the BJD. These regional parties came up, and that is how they start to form coalitions. But he's not off the mark. Is what happened is the CPI has been used or abused by the party in power. You get my point? So therefore, whichever party in power came, whether it's party A or B or C, doesn't matter. I don't have to have names because I don't belong to anybody. I don't support anybody. I'm a neutral person. We are party neutral. We are politically neutral. We are on issues. But the fact of the matter is, and it's a matter of record, it's a matter of admission even in the parliament, that any party in power then use the CBI to twist the tail. किसके लिए अपील करनी है, किसको अपील नहीं करनी है, FIR रजिस्टर करनी है, इन्वेस्ट सर्च करनी है नहीं करनी, these things have happened and CBI has been used. So therefore what these two, the girl and the boy, have said is right, that if the same situation is to continue, the abuse is to continue because it was under the administrative control of the government in power, which means party in power, then what's the point having lokpal? The situation is as bad, and he very rightly said CBI in the new government bill has been broken into 3 parts. It's been damaged further, my friends. The present CBI does not have the inquiry and investigation separate. It can inquire, it can investigate and prosecute. But under the new bill drafted by the government, the inquiry is with the lokpal, investigation is with the CBI, prosecution is with the lokpal. There was a need to distribute work of the CBI. It is like the principal of your college, the IIT director, their appointment is with him, the promotion is with another, and transfer is somebody else. Then what is the director for? Poor director, because there's an agitation to have a deputy director, supposing there's an agitation to have another director. So you create another director and you take away important powers of the director and divide them. But you said we created to strengthen IIT Bhubaneswar and not to divide IIT management. But that's what has happened. But the point is, educated boys and girls like you understand it. But common man doesn't. Common man doesn't. That is why Team Anna had to go all over the country, repeat the same thing again and again and again to explain it to the people. And common man who is in the line every day for kerosene, or in the line for ration, or in the line for water, or in the line for fertilizers, he said, मुझे क्या पड़ता है लोकपाल का, मुझे तो तेल चाहिए, मुझे आटा चाहिए, मुझे राशन चाहिए, जो करना कर लो, जिसको वोट दिलाना दे दो, मैं तो उसको वोट दूंगा जो मुझे 5,000 देगा. Matter over. And that's the majority vote. And they come back to power. And therefore they don't bother about you. They will bother about you only when you also participate. When it matters. When it matters, you participate. You're not union. You're not but this is your role as an Indian. What kind of India do you want? That's your last section. Is the other M, the member of the community. And then there's a higher purpose. And the higher purpose could be anything. Higher purpose could be a life of giving, enriching others. So, I'm very happy that you know what Lokpal is. You're very clear in your mind, but now you also know the why of it. And then you'll understand why is Team Anna going on and on and on saying the same thing. It is because you are in fact making matters worse. How many of you watched that Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha debate that night? Excellent. No wonder you know it. I'm so happy at least half of you watched it. Such debates must never be missed because they make you a better citizen. If you watch that debate, if Rajya Sabha had also passed what Lok Sabha had passed, what would have happened? Would you have had a good bill or would you have had a weak bill? Yes, you would have had a weaker bill. So you might just say, oh, civil society society was wanting a lokpal and the government brought a lokpal, and yet the Timana continues to agitate, or people continue to agitate. Agitate for what? Because you are bringing a worse bill. The country is not agitating for a weak bill. Country is agitating for a strong bill. And in that strong bill, what is the key difference between Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha? One of the key difference, besides Lokayukt was different. I'm not on the Lokayukt issue, which is a federal issue, which is independent of what we're talking about. That's a larger debate, was the CBI. Lok Sabha had passed it as a weak bill controlling the CBI. Rajya Sabha wanted an amendment in which they wanted to set the CBI free. And in Rajya Sabha, Congress is not in majority, BJP is in majority, with allied, it had the numbers with CPI. So BJP and CPI were joining hands, and they would have got the numbers. And they would have passed a bill in which CPI would have been made free of government control. So you would have had two bills. You would have had Lok Sabha passing one form, the other. I thought it will be important. It's important for you as enlightened students, as young, educated students, to know, because it's your future. I'm telling you, not that I've come here to ask you to join any agitation. I've come here to explain to you your duties and rights as citizens. You must know, even liberal arts is not your subject, does not matter. But what is going on in the country is your concern as member of the community, as members of the Indian community, and you've given me the right answers. I'll, by the way, Twitter this today. I'll Twitter, my Twitter handle is, if you want to read it, is Kiran Bedi. I'm going to Twitter that I met IIT Bhubaneswar boys and girls, and both knew the answers. I'll say this. I was into another institution, which I wouldn't mention because it didn't answer. And even in my Twitter, I said I went into a very important institution, a leading education institution. Regrettably, do you know what happened on that day? They were asking me to speak on Lokpal. They, in fact, invited me to speak on Lokpal. And I made a presentation. But before I made a presentation, I thought, let me check how many of them know, so that I don't have to make a presentation. I can get on to Q&A straight away. Why repeat something which they may know? So I asked them, how many of you have read the Lokpal? Do you know what? Only one hand went up. I said, oh God, iska to matlab hai, mujhe yahan nursery class lagani padegi. And that is how I started that class. And then I did Twitter to say that I went into a very important education institution. Regrettably, that institution had no clue. So you are different, therefore I fully give you, but I'm not mentioning the institution because after I took the class, they all knew. So once they all knew, my objective was achieved. But the point is, this is a part of education. This is the way I was. When I was growing up as a child, as a student, I was very aware of, I would read the news, I would read the editorials, I would ensure that I listen to the BBC and other debates when I have important debates. Now you have everything on the internet. You got it all? So it's all available. Be remaining. It's the last M, finally, is a higher purpose. And that higher purpose, my friends, will not come till you actually do community work. And I would urge your leadership to encourage you to do internships in the community. At least 2 weeks. Tell your summer vacation, or if you got your time, I know you do internships with companies, etc. But doing this community service will change your life, will alter your life, and may give you a higher purpose. And Orissa here has a lot of areas to work on. You can choose your areas and work even as a team and go on your own pocket money, travel in the buses, rough it out, go stay somewhere in the same areas and see this is where a common man Indian resides. After all, you're not coming from Tatas and Birla's families. You're one of the community. But there's a community far below you as well. Go and experience it. Then when you are in the corporate world or you are into the government world, you will not be corrupt. You will realize that every penny matters. I'm here to serve, and that is where you will get your third M, called a higher purpose. You will value everything you have. It'll hit you when you will hurt the situation. It'll hit you. That cannot come by books reading or lectures. That will only come by doing. It's doing which changes, not knowing or listening or hearing. It's doing. When you dirty your own hands, when you drink the same dirty water and you realize what kind of water are they getting, what kind of afforestation they're going, what kind of corruption they're suffering. And maybe some of you will go back to the bureaucrat or the politician and say, I want to ask you, sir, why is this happening? Then you will get your confidence, and that is what leadership was all about. This is, my friends, what I did as a student to become somebody. And you see, I never realized that joining the IPS, one day I will go this far and do so many things, and after retirement, I will again do the following. It's a habit now. It's a habit of performance. It's a habit to do. It's a habit to constantly serve without expectations of any return. It's a cause to be met for your own purpose. Not because somebody's asking you to do, but you do because you love to do. I thought I would share with you this inspiration as you wanted. And if you have time, you're most welcome. It's 5 minutes to 5. You got questions to ask, you're most welcome. But remember, before you become your professional engineers, become good social engineers, human engineers. Indian engineers, agri-engineers, people engineers. One of the awards which I got, do you know what I got? One of the very interesting I got was called Social Engineering Award. For me, when I did the prison reforms in Tihar jail, where thousands of prisoners went to school inside the prison, and when everybody was going back from someone illiterate to literate, I was awarded a German award, and it was called Social Sculpturing Award. So friends, this is what you are. Once you start doing this, become social engineers first. Human engineers, social engineers, creative engineers, Indian engineers. It's like that. In some of my NGO projects, do you know, people come from all the way from Hartford University in America every year. They have formed a group called Engineers Beyond Borders. And they come all the way every year to come and serve in one of my villages in the projects. And what do they come and do? Solar pumping, water harvesting, Gabions building. They create all these structures and then they shoot these. They take movies, they put them on the YouTube, and they share it around the world. They have a higher purpose. They have a meaning in life, and they're members of the larger community. See that? And they're masters in their own work. So this is what all the 3M is all about, to succeed in life. I thought this is the best way I can explain to you, for you to carry home this message and then evolve from here and develop it further from here, and never forget the 3 M's are the keys to your success. Thank you very much. So most of you, if you have any questions, you're welcome. And I know you have a magic show after this. Yes.
Good evening, ma'am. My question is that, as you just mentioned, that it is very difficult to convince the local person, common man who just wants ration food. Now, with the introduction of food security bill that provides ration food at a very food security bill that provides ration food, rice at a very low rate to people below poverty line. How do you think? How difficult is it to convince a common man to help getting a country a better lokpal bill? So how difficult is it to convince people?
Is what we're doing. We're doing a lot of sabhas these days. We do Samaj sabhas. So we get talking to people. So we go back Sundays, every Sunday, and do community sabhas. In that sabha, we are not talking about getting food, etc. We're talking about the rights and responsibilities. So while this may become their right to get this kind of free food or low-cost food, we're also talking about their responsibilities. And in that responsibility, how to be a better parent, how to be a better citizen, and what are their rights under right to information and other rights. So when we start sharing them about their legal rights which Indian Constitution gives them, and then we talk about even corruption. And then we talk about how They think they pay no tax, so how does it matter? Then we tell them that every matchbox you buy, you're paying some tax. Because everything has a sales tax, an excise tax, or a movement tax. So you remember, I said you travel in an auto rickshaw, or you travel in a bus. Every petrol liter has a tax on it. So I said you are paying for it. But that tax is going to the government. You are contributing. So don't only think that it is only income tax payee who is building the nation. Everything you consume and you use, you are contributing to the national wealth. Own this country as your responsibility also, and you can ask for more. Why should you only wait for food to come and you're not here just to eat and sleep and die. You're here to do something creative, to change, make a better life for your children and your society. And that's how we start opening up their minds, and that is how they start developing, and that's how the energy comes back to society. And then they start thinking they have to go beyond this 2 rupee kilo rice, and they've got to do something with it. It's by sabhas. In the village, they're called gram sabhas. In the villages, there's a concept called gram sabha. So if you do grams, where you go chatting with the youth, so you can talk to the youth and tell them what kind of trades they can learn, so that rather than migrate, they can provide trade in the village itself. Then how can you help them open a polytechnic? How can you make them learn? It's idea selling. And that is how you spread empowerment. And that makes sense then when you do this. Right? Any other? Yes.
There is so many issue in India which should be highlighted, like crime against women. If one woman is raped, then it is only 12 years life imprisonment. This life imprisonment should be 30 years, 40 years, which is like doing in US and America. Why in India it is not only for 12 years? And sometimes it is happening that 10 years imprisonment plus 5,000 fine. So 5,000 it is IPC. It is made by British in 1860, and at that time it is fine is 5,000. But now it is 10,000. It is 2012, and right now it is also 5,000 fine. Why it is not increased? If we calculate this 5,000 in 1860 inflation of 5%, then it should be in this year it should be 75 lakhs, something like that it will come. So why it is not coming? You should, we all highlight this issue.
I'm glad it concerns you. But who is the law-making body?
The law minister.
No, legislative assemblies. That's why when you next time meet the chief minister, you call him as a chief guest. Ask him these kinds of questions. You should confront your representatives with these kinds of intelligent questions. Okay, why are you not improving your laws? Do you know your Lok Ayukt of Orissa is one of the poorest Lok Ayukt? It's nothing. It's a paper act. Call him sometimes. When is your next convocation?
In a few days, in a few weeks.
When is it? Who are you inviting? Call him. Invite him. But don't tell him you'll ask these questions. Nobody in this promise, nobody tell him. But go and invite him. And then when he's spoken his English, then ask him, sir, we have a few questions to ask. Do we have your permission? Then he should not say, no, I'm in a hurry to go. You know, sir, the gate is closed. And he will stay back and he will listen to you and say, sir, why aren't we having a strong Lokayukt? Why are we not having these assembly laws updated for the state? Because they can pass state laws, right? So it's the law-making bodies which pass these laws. The parliament passes national laws and state assemblies pass state laws, but they don't have time for legislation. They have to find time to legislate. Because when you legislate, the court then decides. But if you don't legislate, how much will the court? Court will only give you what the law is. If the law is 10 years, however, the court will not give you life. So it has to be legislation. And legislation is in the hands of legislators.